What's up, guys and girls? Giovanni here, and today we are here for season 6, possibly the last season. Cause y'all know my prediction is that the series will end at season 7. Now, I want to say, usually when I do these multi-part episodes, I do an episode in one section and another episode or episodes in another. But I feel nothing strongly really happened between the episodes. So I will split it up in between storylines. With that, let's begin to talk about season 6, episodes 1 and 2.
Alright then. Let's raise some hell.
So the first storyline is Neil and Lazlo, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time they have a proper interaction. With that, I would say Ernie and Felix have okay chemistry. Last season they had small interactions, like in season 5, episode 23, when Raven and gang was stuck in the basement. But here, it's a proper one-on-one. They both team up to get rid of some bikers. Lazlo made a poster that advertises free food at for bicyclists, people, and biker gangs thought that would apply to them. However, that wasn't the case. Lazlo was too scared to tell them to leave and pay for their food, so that's why he asks Neil for help. At one point, Neil says, "Let's call the police," but one of the bikers was the police, so that wasn't an option. In the end, the bikers pay for the food. On top of that, the bikers, especially the leaders, Snake, weren't even scary. It was just their appearance that made it feel like that. With all that though, I feel the Neil and Lazlo portions could have been cut from the episodes. I would have totally been fine and preferred if it was just the story in London, because even at the beginning of the episode, Neil said he had nothing to do. Ivy was not in the episodes, and the reason for that is I'm gonna explain that in my episode 4 review. You gotta wait. I think that is why my grade is so mid, because of the storyline. Every time it will go back to Neil and Lazlo, I'm like, can we go back to London? Anyway, let's move on to the London storyline. Raven, Booker, and Alice head off to London, and when they get there, Raven says she planned their trip to the minute to see what the city has to offer. It should be noted, Raven didn't have her dad on the list, so if it wasn't for Alice, they wouldn't have had visited Victor. This explains why they didn't visit Levi and Garrett, because they weren't on the list, though it's still unconfirmed. Who is Levi living with? His father? Oh, Chelsea. I would have least liked to have heard a mention to them. Guess Raven still has beef with Garrett. They head to the Buckingham Palace to meet with Victor. And once there, this is where Alice meets Clementine. Sorry, wrong one. Alice meets her doppelganger, Duchess Clementine. They look exactly alike. This character is a new made-up celebrity like I predicted. Now, this is nothing new to the Disney sitcom universe where characters look like other characters. They talk to each other. Clementine wants to live a normal life. She's tired of the hair drying, manicures, the parties, while Alice wants to get away from the overbooked tourists Raven has planned. They decide to switch places in each other's lives. Stop me when you heard this trope before. 2 movies come to mind with this trope, and that's The Parent Trap and Garfield 2, especially Garfield 2, A Tale of Two Kittens. That's why I put a similar title in the thumbnail. I can't believe they became friends almost instantly. They skimmed so fast through the beginning of this usual trope. I find it weird Alice and Clementine can do each other's accents. I mean, well, I could see it for Alice because this girl can hack into space comms. I wouldn't even be surprised if Alice could speak 10 other languages at this point, or even all languages. With that, they live each other's lives. Alice eats the cakes, gets a manicure, tries on fancy clothes, even shoes. Alice meets the king, and concerns start coming her way when she has to play the piano for him and his friends. Clementine hangs out with Raven and gang by being at the Tower Bridge, Big Ben, and being on sticky seats on buses. At all those places, Raven was really dedicated to her schedule. You saw her walking back and forth at the tower waiting for the timer to go off. On the bus, Booker is just putting the pieces together because Clementine was calling Victor grandfather and not Pop-Pop, using big words like schedulating, calling things lovely, and not making fun of Booker. Raven says to Booker she's acting like this it's because she's having fun. Clementine does Raven's catchphrase.
Oh, snap!
Now this is unusual because she said the Americans say. So are the writers saying in the Disney sitcom universe that this phrase is an American thing and not Raven's thing? Wow. On the bus, Raven gets a phone call from the real Alice and tells Booker he was right. Episode 1 ends with Clementine sneaking off the bus. Episode 2 begins with Victor saying, "How could you steal Clementine and then lose her?" Raven says he's been here this whole time, and Victor says,
"Everyone knows I have no control over this family."
And yet, he's still one of the greatest Disney Channel dads and dad TV characters of all time. So they get to working to looking for Clementine, but Raven wasn't really looking as she is too busy taking pictures. After a long day, Booker says we need to calm down. I think there was a small chance for a vision, and it would have been a small one, but it would have been a vision of Clementine being at the fish and chips place. But I liked they used their brains. By the way, there was no visions in these 2 episodes. Victor, being smart, realizes that they might go to court, so he calls Tanya. I don't know if Raven was joking or not, but she said she can't afford her. I want to know, what was Tanya doing during this time? Maybe she was doing a court case at a friend's house, or she could have been at home waiting for them to come and visit. I could hear T. Crystal's voice right now. "Honey, what's the situation? What did Raven do now?" So like I said earlier, they find her at Fish and Chips. Then Raven and Booker take Clementine back home. Alice during this time tells the butler of Clementine's, who I liked, about the switching places, so he has to play the piano for her. After the piano playing, the king wants to fence with Alice. Alice tries to lose on purpose, but that doesn't work. Alice puts the magnets of Rafferty's name tag on the sword to bring both swords together. Alice might not know how to fence, but she is smart, but not smart enough, because why would you do that right in front of him? Why didn't he or nobody say anything? Alice wins the fencing fight, and that's when Raven, Booker, and Clementine show up. Raven says this to Alice.
"Ooh, Alice, you in trouble, girl?"
This was another chance they could have brought back the "you're gonna get it" catchphrase. Speaking of catchphrases, I just realized a new one. When Alice says "you right, you right, you right" really fast, I just remembered I think Raven started doing that in season 5. I guess it ain't really clicked for me because it didn't seem like a catchphrase. Clementine explains everything to the king and he understands the situation. The London storyline ends with Raven getting deemed by the king. Bars and starts dancing, and I could tell Raven Simone was having a fun time doing that. After everything that happened in London, they were only there for 6 hours and then presumably went back home immediately. That seems like a waste of money. Then again, Neil said they will be there for 4 days. So I have to ask the question, what happened on days 2 through 4? Did they all continue to hang out? Did Raven visit Tanya? I don't know. A few minor things I want to mention about the episode. I get the writers were doing the switching trope, but I wish there was a mystery not knowing Alice and Clementine switch places. If the writers wanted us to know, but not the characters, how about not beating us over the head with it? They made it totally obvious to the characters that it wasn't Alice and Clementine. You're not acting like Alice. You're not acting like Clementine. They were trying too hard. Raven and Lasagna. After these episodes, it just gives me more clarity that I need an explanation on this when Raven and Eddie just made her up back in the original show. In the way Tasha was talking, it made me want to see human Tasha. Hope she returns. Now, in my Raven's Home Season 6 predictions, at number 1, I would talk about it if it wasn't brought back up. And that is Victor Baxter getting healthy. Not once was this mentioned in the 2-part premiere. And so this is gonna be my recurring gag for Season 6. Just like Tanya was for Season 5. They need to show it, but also mention Victor getting healthy. Because if they drop it, if they drop the storyline, that means I'm gonna have to drop my grade of Season 5, at least down 2 points. I don't want that to happen. So wrapping up, let's get the hell out of here with my grade for the Season 6 premiere episodes. And that is a 5 out of 10. And that's mostly down to Neil and Lazlo being there. Because if they weren't, it would have been a 6.5 out of 10. This was definitely the weakest multi-part episode of Raven's Home has ever done. I guess it shows because part 1 was the lowest viewed episode of all time. But with that being said, get your fingers up and say it with a me. A bye-bye-bee.